It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday. It's Feedback Friday, and I'm trying to be quieter this Feedback Friday. Okay, so it's Feedback Friday, and yeah, still getting used to this microphone. It sounds great on the podcast when I can get up here and turn the gain way down, but I'm still trying to figure out where the sweet spot is elsewhere. It seems to be doing pretty well right here. Okay. Yeah, the feedback's kind of, it's sort of a smorgasbord of things, but one of the things that I thought was really cool was both in some comments on the YouTube video, and then on the Discord there was a lot of conversation about the comment I made about if a cleric switches religions, they should start back at level 1. And that led to a really interesting conversation that I want to talk about. But let me do the help support this channel. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/LeannaK. Both of those give you invites to our Discord server where we talk about very many cool things. And then the GoFundMe if you just want to kick us a few bucks. Yeah, the one thing that is, the channel itself is spicy, but it keeps politics talk off. We filter all the politics talk into one channel, and everything else tries to be, glance and come back to it. And so far that's working out pretty well, and we hope that continues into 2024, because oh god, it's gonna be a rocky one. But I have so many topics from this week that I've written down, and wow, it's gonna take me a while to get through them. But yes, the conversation about Shadowheart and switching deities and absolutely no stats penalty. And there seems to be a fairly clear demarcation in the opinions between people who have played the past Baldur's Gate games and other CRPGs, especially the isometric CRPGs, and people who this is, their first game of the kind, or they've played stuff like The Witcher 3 that is much more action RPG. And a lot of people are like, well, it's a video game, it's gamified, so that's why they didn't do the stats bump. And if there are so many other things in Baldur's Gate 3 that are supposed to simulate a tabletop experience, down to being very easy to leave an item in camp in a critical quest point. I don't think you can really excuse it on those grounds. It can't be considered a strength of the game that oh my god, it's so much like a tabletop experience. Video games can't be tabletop experiences. They can't be, because there's no humans. There's no creativity. It's locked in. And I mean, the number of possibilities that they accounted for make the ones that they didn't very glaring. And that's why I don't think that something based on the D&D system, or something based on Forgotten Realms or Planescape or Eberron or anything like that, should try to emulate the tabletop experience. It should be a good game in and of itself. And longtime players of these sorts of games, like me, knows that in those classic games, there's always the point where you get caught and thrown in jail, and you have all your gear taken away, and you're just in your underwear, which does the same thing mechanically as someone having to start at level 1 for a while. So there's no reason they couldn't have done, because the ability to reroll characters is in the game. You can respec with Withers. And now maybe it's hardwired and they don't start at level 1, but it would be very simple to just spawn a new character that's Shadowheart post, like, what's her name? Freaking Jennifer or something like that. With the Switch. And it gets even stranger with some of the mid-ground endings. Like, there's sort of a maximize your potential but have a less human ending for a lot of the characters. And then there's the, embrace your humanity ending. And for Shadowheart, if she saves her parents, she's in constant pain from Char her entire life. But Char has forsaken her. She's no longer a follower of Char. And it just, faith doesn't work that way. It's not one binary choice. It's just like they wanted to make some statement about it's better to kill your parents and get on with your life or something. I don't know. I'm being glib. I'm not saying that's what they're doing. I'm just making a joke because it's so, this is what I mean, that certain things are so ham-handed that I'm not, and it could just be that there isn't anyone on the team that really understands how faith works. And so when it comes to what it's like to switch a religion, they never connected with anything. And so they never know what it's like to have to switch. I don't know. I'm speculating here. This is just, giving them benefit of the doubt as much as I can. Because giving benefit of the doubt as much as I can that they weren't just lazy and went, fuck it, it's the girlfriend character. And you'll be remembered that I'm like, I just see the girlfriend character in Shadowheart, and I despise the girlfriend character because hot take of the video. If you really love your girlfriend, you won't embarrass her by giving her obvious special condescending treatment in front of your buds at game night. You'll let her learn the game. And, if it's come and sit and watch first, but then we get into this thing of, male nerds thinking women can't possibly actually like this stuff and can't possibly be into it. So just let her essentially cheat the game system. And the problem with that is she'll either never get better and you'll have to just let her cheat, for the rest of the time. Or she's going to dump your ass, move on to someone else who's not going to let her cheat, and then she's going to find out you were letting her cheat. And this goes back to the first time I ever played D&D ever. I wanted to play a wizard, and I remember the first fight we had, I got one-shotted, and so the guy actually let me reroll. But I always felt bad about that, and I remember, because it was like it was cheating, and I didn't want to do that. And I understand later. That's the point of tabletop. If you've got a new player and something happens, okay, you give them a few. But I knew I was getting special treatment. I knew enough about the game to know that dice roll meant I was dead. And he gave me a do-over. But after 3 or 4 of those, it's like, no, man, this fight's too hard. The party's dead. Maybe we should have run away. And that became my lifelong, enjoyment of things like Dungeons and Dragons. And that was the 6th grade, Mr. Bingham's class at Derrytown. And yeah, I guess that sense of fairness of, no, girls can manage this stuff. I was freaking, what would I have been in the 6th grade? 12? Something like that. Less, 11 or 12, because I skipped a grade. I don't know. But yeah, it just, don't lower the bar because it's a girl. That's not, if you would let anybody do that if they were a new player, that's cool. But there is so much that is treated as extremely different because of girl that it has created this observational thing where we talk about equality and then treat people extremely differently. And then we try to relabel it equity, and we still get it wrong, because equity isn't treating a person like they're never going to get it. Equity is treating somebody like, understandably, there are different sensitivities, different challenge, a lack of certain opportunities that you accommodate for. It's not easy mode forever. It's an improved tutorial. And that's where we sort of get into the idea of, the broken video, because, it's not just that there is a definite girlfriend mode in a lot of areas of life, but, some of the comments from people in the Manly Monday comments, they were intense, and thank you for saying that I pronounced Salune correctly. I am redeemed from last week where I said Scandinavian, where I should have said Nordic. I knew that was wrong the minute I came out of my mouth, but I got Salune correct. All right, yay. This one guy in the Am I Too Broken video talked about how doctors told his mother that he'd be a dribbling vegetable because of a combination of autism and some other challenges, and then obvious abuse in the family, and then a slightly less abusive stepfather, and he said at the end, with all the bad treatment he got from male adults in his life, he said, do I need to respect that? And no, you don't. That's why I do these videos, in part because there's this, this is why I'm saying this is the opposite of girlfriend mode with boys. And we know this is not me pulling this out of my ass based on anecdote. There's been study after study after study that has shown that if you dress babies up in the opposite sex clothes, their own parents will treat them differently based on the gendered coding. So don't tell me gender's strictly biological. That's your kid. But that was a wild study. But we do, as a society, coddle girls, which is not good, and we brutalize boys, which is also not good. We're not in the middle. We don't treat girls as competent and boys as feeling beings. And so we end up with these real disconnects, and you get, you talk to enough trans people and they get both ends of it, and they can tell you this is real. This socialization is extremely real. And it's not fair to anybody. And do I need to respect that? No, commenter. I think you have the right attitude here. Laughing at the abuse is, I do that too. I understand that, it's not worth getting angry because it's over and the guy's pathetic. And no, you absolutely do not have to respect that. You've been through a lot, man. And, you're not broken. You're a freaking survivor. And some of us are kind of dented, but that's part of the survivor deal. That's why Kratos has cool scars, right? Like one here and then one here, and badass story on all of them. Another commenter talked about, commitment issues. And this is an interesting, not broken as a person, but the whole commitment thing does get janked up, right? And that's a thing a lot of people experience because they do have feelings of low worth. And low worth isn't being broken, but it's something everybody has a portion of their life where you have low self-worth. And worth is learned by trying things and sometimes failing and sometimes succeeding. If you never have the capacity to fail, then you don't build self-worth through those little achievements. And I think part of the reason we have such an anxiety epidemic is because people don't learn how to recover from not even failure, but just mistakes. People just assume that if they make one mistake, everyone's going to hate them. You know, in a group I run this, we've had a situation where one person behaved pretty badly, and the person who behaved badly was so convinced that it was unforgivable, he missed multiple people telling him, no, this is fixable, like this is redeemable, there's a way back from this, you know, it's not going to be easy mode. There's got to be some restitution made, but this is solvable. And the guy wouldn't even take the first, he took the first step and balked at the more important second step, because he was just so convinced that it was hopeless. And it's unfortunate, but those are the things where I firmly believe that you can't make it, there's no girlfriend mode in my world. It's, you know, I'm the person who's the better gamer in my family. You know, I used to go easy on kids, and then my nephew sharked me on Smash Brothers. They learned the solid snake exploit and skunked me. It's like, all right, you're old enough now, kids. Gloves are up. They kicked my ass. I am not good at Smash. But they were so happy because I was actually trying, and they were really beating me, and that was actually a sense of achievement, right? If you constantly let them win, they know you're letting them win, and that means less and less. And it's the same thing with girlfriend mode. You know, I've realized that the people who are very sensitive to the sense that they're being condescended to do feel stupid in a lot of cases. I've had multiple points where someone accused me of condescending or treating them like a child, and I was like, what are you talking about? And it finally came up that I used a word they didn't understand, and they felt stupid, and that's where it was coming from. And it's like, you guys have seen me on Twitch. Like, I didn't know about Guile's theme. This actually came up on Twitch, and everybody's like, there are just pockets of this is why I joke that I'm like Captain America, because every so often there's a reference that I was just not around for. Imagine I'm frozen in a block of ice. But you know that thing, that internet thing where there'll be a clip and then something will happen and they'll play, you know, you know that? I didn't know that was a thing. And so it was on Twitch, and I'm like, what is this? Like, if I don't know something, I'll be like, Arr. When you have enough confidence in the things that you do know, you don't have to pretend you know things you don't, or you don't feel stupid when you don't know something. It's not possible to know everything, you know? And I love learning about other cultures and learning about people. I mean, you'll notice there's a whole cycle of learning with the videos, and then, you know, the one-on-one sessions, and then the Discord and Twitch, and we all learn from each other. And I think that there's some connection there, because every one of these toxic traits has an oppositional, you know, on the other gender. It's essentially the same root, but it manifests differently. And I do think that the commitment issues are the sort of equivalent. There are some women with commitment issues, but we talk about it far more in men. Whereas, the whole imposter syndrome or feeling stupid, not ever feeling like you're good at something, that we study it far more in women, even though some men get it. And they really are the same urge, right? I cannot possibly be good at this. I have so many of these bad impulses. I make mistakes all the time. Hide it, hide it, hide it. Run away before either you can hurt someone or be rejected. And you notice the men nope out in the feminine sphere, and women nope out at the masculine sphere. In the fear, what is going on with that? Like, work is considered a masculinized environment. It was originally constructed for men, not women, and there's still some vestiges of that. And then dating, relationships, feelings, there's this bullshit thing that women are just naturally better at emotions than men. And that, I want that to stop, because I work primarily with men. The processes are different. The way it's expressed is different, but men are not less feeling, and men are not less inherently emotionally adept. A lot of my clients, I know them well enough that when they tell me something's happened, I'm like, at this point, I know that that's going to bother them, and I know why. And some of it is a vocabulary thing, and I guess because I went through a period where I couldn't put words to my feelings, because why did it matter? Who cared what I was feeling? It didn't matter, and that submission is what you do in the face of certain types of abuse. And I work with a lot of guys that are going through that same process, and the fact that it is painful to relive that is why it's effective. Because I'm not sitting there in judgment. I'm sitting there going, yeah, I remember being there. I remember what it was like. And, there's nothing, like, your brain is working as intended. It's cool. We just have to get this need fulfilled in another way. And, this one guy said he's just decided he prefers being on his own to being in a relationship. And you know what? That is completely valid. If you don't want to be in a relationship, you don't have to be. And if you do want to be in a relationship, well, there's nothing wrong with trying for it. Don't just pick anybody who'll have you. Be selective. That's why I say don't talk about getting a girlfriend. Talk about meeting the right person and really work out what your values are, what you want out of a relationship, what you want out of your life. It's very important to know both, because relationships evolve. They have to change with circumstances, and everybody's got to be rowing in the same direction. And if you're both career minded, then even if you're not, I work with some people who have stay-at-home partners, and being a stay-at-home partner is a tough slog. It is very isolating, and you don't get a lot of grown-up time. And the single mothers, not the single mothers, the stay-at-home moms, I knew, I'd go over there and like, oh my God, grown-up conversation. That was sort of my role. And it's not just sitting at home all day watching Oprah and, wow, that's a dated reference, watching The Young and the Restless and eating chips on the couch, right? You're a full-time parent, which means you don't get any other sphere of self-worth. And, that's That's sort of the problem with girlfriend mode being pulled into the rest of life. Because if we have these low expectations on women coming into something, and, then, yeah, the woman on the team is less good. I remember when I started doing, when I was doing games journalism, and I was starting to, that kind of stuff, I got really pissed off that people assumed that I wasn't as good, or I didn't know as much, or I wasn't as serious about it. And it was only through being at events and seeing the other women who were there, I understand the assumption now. I still don't like it, but I understand it, because a lot of the female media that were there were general reporters, the female reporter from the local news who, yeah, I played Mario as a kid, yeah, I'll go. And they didn't know anything. And I never understood why they were like, to start the game, press start. Oh, you know what you're doing. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then I'd look over and somebody else is like, how do I start it? And I'm like, and that's not the reporter's fault. She was sent there. But she shouldn't have been sent there. There should have been somebody there who knew the fucking job. But unfortunately, for a long time in tech, the most important skill to be a woman on one of these tech channels was to be able to read a teleprompter so somebody could write your copy for you. And it sucked. It was a circle. Women were treated with less respect because women were sent who didn't have the requisite skills and knowledge, and it just went around and around and around. And I was about to say that's no one's fault, but no, there are people like me who are qualified to do this stuff. Yeah, I'm not as cute as, the blue-haired girl with the goth look, but I know what the fuck I'm talking about. Isn't that better? No, apparently not. They want the gothy looking chick with the piercings and the blue hair, and that's the world. And ironically, I wasn't intending to describe, the gothy chick, Shadowheart, but there we go. There is this thing. There is this woman who is alt enough to not be the girl who rejected you in school, but not into it enough to be threatening to certain people. And that drives me crazy, because the whole idea of it being threatening is a paradigm I really reject. And I know it's real. I know it's a thing. I understand, because guys like to be useful. And I like to be useful, but sometimes you have to just be there with you can't fix the problem. You can't. The most useful thing you can sometimes be is a sounding board. And it can feel like you're not doing much, but there are certain times, there's a lot of people this time of year. There's a lot of trauma anniversaries I've been working through with people, and I said to a couple people who are like, I keep talking about this. It's like, we will talk about this as many times as you want, as many times as you need to get there. 'Cause, recovery of this stuff is a loop. It is a roguelike. It is a gauntlet where you get so far, die, come back with, the experience. You level a few things up, you run it again. It really is, Alan Wake, it's not a loop, it's a spiral, but we want the spiral to be going up instead of going down. It doesn't tend to stay static. So we want that spiral going up. And that means, trauma's about being stuck. So of course you're going to talk about the same thing over and over and over again. It's going to seem different every time you do it. That's why you're working through it. you know, that's not being broken, and that doesn't mean you can't handle commitment. But that, you know, commitment is sort of like the girlfriend mode of relationships. There's this lowered expectation on men. In fact, there's this normalization of men who can't commit. And I disagree with that completely because I know guys who get so committed that they can't get over relationships like 15, 20 years later. It's like, it's not, I don't know where the stereotype came from. It's not real. And, you know, some guys are like that. Some women are like that. But let's center and normalize the guys who can commit, not the guys who can't. Let's center and normalize the guys who do at least want to feel their feelings. We may have to help with the wording. Some we may have to help with the vocabulary, but let's normalize that instead of, you know, Mr. Macho, you know, what is it? Whatever it is, Sigma Man or whatever. And then, you know, let's normalize women who own their shit and do actually work at stuff. And not the girlfriend mode character. Because I really do think that these teams don't see anything wrong with the Shadowheart problem. And, I mean, Karlach gets robbed on content in that game. Karlach is bae, but I think it's so normalized. Like, this is archetypical girl, right? This is what guys want, right? That they didn't bother to make the character make sense. They didn't bother to make the character really consistent. It was just a bunch of male wish fulfillment likability tropes with a bit of I hate my parents' toxic femininity wish fulfillment thrown in. Wherever the intersection point lay, that's where Shadowheart ended up. And that's not, to me, that's not respecting the players. That in a gaming tradition where a character like Jaheira, who is gruff and difficult and almost like a tsundere, a fan base that will embrace that can handle a cleric of Shar who isn't very nice to you at first. Like, it's just... Anyway, that interesting conversations. Loved the thing about the level reset and how that could work. Yeah, lots of topics for next week. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for some of you who can't afford it, coffee.com/LeannaK. We need one more for this week, so please kick in if you can, or kick a few bucks on GoFundMe. Thanks for watching, and have a great weekend.